I was disappointed in the president's comment, but I think we've come to recognize that the president has a blind spot when it comes to Russia. I think he feels that anything that suggests that Russia is being malevolent or not treating him with the respect he deserves, why he obviously backs away from that. He doesn't want to recognize Russia as the problem they are and the extraordinarily bad actor they are on the world stage, because it reflects poorly on him, and at least perhaps in his own mind. And the reality is, Russia really is a geopolitical adversary.
In his own mind being the operative phrase there, Donald Trump's blind spot, as Mitt Romney very charitably put it, became painfully apparent once again this weekend as the president downplayed the severity of a massive cyber attack believed by U.S. intelligence to have been carried out by Russia. The president has even tried to suggest, without any evidence, that China could be behind the attack, even as two of his most prominent cabinet members, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Attorney General Bill Barr, have said Russia is responsible. Joining us now, Independent Senator Angus King of Maine. He's also a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Senator, it's so nice to see you. Would you go further than Mitt Romney and say it's more than a blind spot? It's a free pass for Russia to do whatever they want?
Well, that's been the pattern for the past 4 years, Nicole. And John Bolton was on a program the other night and said he thought the explanation was that he believes that any time the administration is critical of Russia or anything about Russia comes up, it somehow refers back to Russia's activities in the 2016 election and delegitimizes his election. That's what seems to be in his head. You know, there may be other factors. We just don't know. Time will tell. But it is rather odd that at every turning over the past 4 years, if Russia has been offending against us, which they have, he turns a blind eye, and this is only the most recent. This hack is really serious, Nicole.
What can you tell us about the confidence the intelligence community has? I imagine it's sky high if you've got Mike Pompeo and Bill Barr, two people who have sought to please Donald Trump in every way they know how to do as members of his cabinet, both coming out today and affirming that it was indeed Russia. Are folks quite certain that it was Russia? I mean, what do you think Donald Trump is hanging his delusion on about China?
Well, I've seen the intelligence, but I can't talk about it, so I'm not going to share what I've seen. But I will say, if you have the Secretary of State and the Attorney General affirming pretty much unequivocally that it was Russia, you can take that to the bank. I mean, that's they have no reason to say anything other than what they know, and that's what they've said. So I think that part of the question is resolved. The other thing the president said that was disturbing is that this is no big deal. That somehow this is fake news, or the media is making a big deal about it. It is a big deal. It's been going on for at least a year. Before we discovered it. That in itself is a serious problem. But the other problem, Nicole, is we don't really know what the intent is. Is this simply an effort to get intelligence, to learn, some of our secrets? Or is it an intent to do what they call active measures, to do something malicious while being in these networks? We don't know that yet, but that's what makes this such a serious intrusion.
And we are obviously a country in crisis, dealing with one of the worst COVID outbreaks, dealing with distrust as the vaccine is approved and begins to be rolled out. What would your advice be to the incoming administration, not about resetting the relationship with Russia per se, but about sort of girding ourselves for what you just described, an unknown scope of damage done by Russia and an attack that could be ongoing, it sounds like you're suggesting?
Well, for the past year and a half, I've been working with a group of my colleagues and private sector and administration people on the cyber threat. It was set up by the Congress 2 years ago, called the National Cyberspace Solarium Commission, bipartisan, and we've been working on this issue explicitly. I think the first piece of advice to the incoming administration is this is damn serious. the threat of a cyber attack or a cyber intrusion or cyber manipulation is very serious. It's the most serious external threat that we face right now. Secondly, we've got to do a better job of defending ourselves. As I said, one of the disturbing things about this is we didn't even detect it for almost a year. The final piece, though, Nicolle, I think is very important. This kind of thing has been going on for years. China has done it. Russia has done it. There's been some indication that Iran has done it. The problem is we're a cheap date. We don't respond. And as long as we don't respond and our adversaries don't have any fear of us, of consequences, of anything coming back on them, they're going to keep doing it. Why not? It's cheap. Putin can hire 8,000 hackers for the cost of one jet airplane. And so why wouldn't they keep doing this? I want somebody in the Kremlin sitting at that table saying, boss, I don't know if we should do this, because if we do, they're going to whack us. Right now, they don't have that fear.
Well, speaking of cheap dates and Russia and having no fear, Mike Flynn was in the Oval Office on Friday. He had been pitching the idea of invoking martial law to rerun the elections. Donald Trump reportedly asked some questions about that. Sidney Powell has been in the West Wing the last 3 days, including today. The Army put out a statement saying they have no intention of getting involved. Bill Barr seems to be using his final hours as Attorney General to push back against Donald Trump. What is your degree of alarm about the president's statements that have seeped out of a reportedly very alarmed inner circle?
Well, there are two pieces. One is, thank goodness we live in a country where our military swears their oath to the Constitution, not to a president, not to the Congress, not even to the country. They swear their oath to the Constitution of the United States. And it's a shame that the Army has to put out a statement saying they're going to honor that oath. I mean, that tells you sort of where we are. But the second piece, Nicolle, I'm concerned about all this martial law stuff, but that's pretty far out, and it would take a lot of military people violating their oaths, and I don't think they'll do it. But the other piece that's happening in plain sight is the president's incredibly powerful and persistent effort to undermine our democracy itself. The bedrock of our democracy is elections. I don't mind what the president says. What I mind is that millions of people are listening to him. And he is going to make it very difficult for the next president to govern. He's undermined that. But also, when we lose confidence in elections, you know, where are we? I mean, that's what this country's built on. Of all the things he's done that I disagree with, this is the worst. He is systematically, consistently undermining the basic functioning of our democratic system.
I hear from a lot of national security folks that I talk to the very same thing. Of all the things he's done, it's the conduct over the last 37 days that may have done the most damage. Senator Angus King, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We're always grateful when we get to talk to you, my friend.